What it is Tyrus doing a little flexing, get ready to flex, and I'm pumped up because I'm excited. Even though he never was a Patriot, he's still one of my favorite all-time greats, and I have crossed paths with him a couple times. Once as a grizzled wrestler, and he was a grizzled old man. We were on a flight sitting there with our heads down in the airport. I think you were working for the NFL Network at the time, and I was on our way off to somewhere else, and then I had a chance to talk with you. But ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Famer and a Hall of Fame person, the great Rod Woodson. Thank you so much for joining us today and talking with me. You're in Canton for the Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrinement, representing NFL alumni health, promoting DEA One Pill Can Kill. And this is something that you have been a advocate for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrus, first of all, let me say I appreciate you having me on, man. It's good seeing you again, brother. But listen, we're all parents, we're all grandparents, we're all mentors. And, the one thing I want to really get across is that everybody out there, go to the webpage, dea.gov/1pill, and it has a pamphlet in there to how to speak to middle school, grade school, high school, young adults about this drug that could have affected me when my oldest boy was going through his phase of growing up.
Right.
Unfortunately, fortunately enough for me, fentanyl wasn't really big back then, but today it's everywhere and it doesn't discriminate. 3 or 4 little grams of salt can kill you. And the one thing that we just want to get across is that you can't buy prescription drugs on social media.
No.
So let's just be smart for all the fans and young people out there listening. Let's be smart and, make sure that you do the right thing. And if you have an issue, find somebody to talk to about how you can attack it. And you don't have to go down that path.
And I think it's important that a lot of times people who aren't affected by what something like this can do to you is people a lot of times are searching for medicine. And they're afraid, and you talk about they can't communicate, or they feel they can't, or there's a certain shame in it. And I will say that we have seen, particularly in this new administration, a concentrated effort to crack down on it. But that doesn't mean it's still not there. And I think a lot of times when we see like our borders it's a lot harder to get things across the border than it was, but it doesn't mean it's still not here, And I myself was a part of, as suggested, that treating a lot of the people who flood the countries that flood the drugs in as terrorists, and we were able to see that ended up becoming a policy, and we got the videos of drug ships being blown up. So then there's a certain amount of, well, it's not a problem anymore. No, it is. Right. And a lot of times fentanyl especially is not something that they're necessarily even looking for. We've seen with so many kids in college looking for things to stay up late to study. Right. And they think they're getting some kind of speed or some Adderall or something to keep them awake, and it's actually mixed with fentanyl, and then they end up dead. This is like, I think we've got, and because, when you were coming on to talk about this today, I was like, I'm glad we're talking about it because it's not in the news cycle anymore. We're not seeing any stories. Because we think, well, it's done because we've made it harder. And this is one thing we know about drugs and drug dealers. They find a way.
Yeah. Listen, this is the 3rd year that the NFL Alumni Health has partnered up with the DEA. The DEA has done a tremendous job around our country to fighting drugs in all the neighborhoods. And the one thing that I said at the very beginning, this drug and drugs in general doesn't discriminate. And as you're saying, it might be a kid who's in college who trying to do an all-nighter because he's studying for an exam. Somebody might be trying to get their master's in something, or PhD in something. They're studying for trying to do their thesis or something. They're trying to stay up and get it done. And you're looking for this thing to give you some more energy. And you're finding it on social media. And that's the biggest thing. The biggest thing is those type of drugs are not on social media. So go to a professional healthcare provider and do it the right way. So, because this can destroy families, it destroys communities, it destroys households. And, the DEA has been doing a great job over the last 3 years. And I'm glad the NFL Alumni Health has partnered with them because, yes, it's not in the news cycle consistently. So we think it's no big deal.
Right.
No, it is still a big deal. We still got to make sure we're doing the right things consistently for the rest of our kids growing up coming through our society.
Now, I'm going to say the website again if you're just joining us. To learn more, go to dea.gov/1pill. And I wish we didn't have to have this conversation, but just one pill. That is such a powerful statement because it's literally just that. It is a decision, and there is no answers for your for pills or anything. Like we see weight loss, they could easily same thing. You think you're taking a pill is going to help you cut weight? It's got laced with fentanyl. It can mask itself in just about any type of drug. People use it to make counterfeits, and we saw for a while we were seeing pictures where it looked like candy, and it was socially like, hey, pop one of these before you go out to the club and things like that. It's hard to compete with that as parents when you're trying to teach your young men and women who are starting to leave the nest. It is very hard for them to be like, well, dad's hip, dad's cool, he doesn't know what it is, or they'll say, well, hey, you smoked weed. They'll say things and throw it back at you, but you can't. You have to understand the lethality of one mistake. This isn't drinking too many beers and being hungover the next day. You can come back from that, but you risk one like you said, salts of this, and your family is devastated forever. And it does. We say it can. We use those terms. I think it does. It still does. And the list of families who could come on this program right now and talk about how their life is forever changed, not for the better, losing a child, losing a loved one, it's shocking. And anyone who has a problem with the program, just sit down with those families and listen to what their life's like.
Yeah, I mean, you think about like drug-related deaths in the U.S. is the highest among 18 to 44-year-old individuals, right? So, I mean, so we have to make sure that we keep talking about it, keep pounding the tables, that we're being proactive, not reactive, to what is going on with our youth. Because I lived it, and just fortunately for me, my son is great now. He's doing tremendous, but that fentanyl wasn't a big thing back then, but the way it is today, where it could be laced in almost anything that you could buy on the social media market, because you don't know who's making it on the back end of that. So that's why I'm saying go to a trusted physician if you need something for whatever, if it's weight loss, if it's energy, whatever it might be. Make sure you go to a trusted physician to get yourself evaluated, to find out how you can get something legally that doesn't come through the black market.
Exactly. And also finding, you speak to a physician and maybe there's something that you haven't tried yet. Maybe it's like getting a nap in, and I know that sounds, and that's not dismissive. What I'm saying is, like, a lot of times people wait till they get to the point where I need something. I got to figure something out. And communication is, I think, the biggest net in dealing with any addiction, is being able to talk about when you're struggling and being able to talk about when you have a need or you think you have a need, and being able to talk and have someone to talk to. And I guess it's not, and look, I'm a father, I've got 6. And when, trying to communicate, I can communicate with somebody else's kid pretty easily, and if they ask me a question about life, and it's hard sometimes to get your kids to understand where you're coming from, because they're just rebellious. It's a natural, especially when they get older, it's almost natural to question everything your parents say. And
well, I mean, they hear your voice every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I got 5, right? We've got 3 grandkids now, and our grandkids are to the age, right? So, I can talk easier to my grandkids than I could to my kids, because they didn't see me. They don't see me every single day, right? So they hear my voice, and if Grandpa's going to say something, he's like, okay, maybe Grandpa's being, because they call me Grumpy Paul, because I'm not always happy with my kids and my grandkids. So they listen to me a little bit better. So I think as we go through this thing, but as we're parents and we're neighbors, but we're trying to be mentors to all the young men and women out there who might need help. And I think if we have a platform that we can maybe hopefully plant a seed in them, and then somebody else comes to water that seed and it comes to fruition in the next couple of weeks or another year from now, I mean, that's what we're trying to get done.
Yeah. And also your programs like this, which are dealing with real life things, it's also, we have to look at some point, and I love the NFL is doing this. We also need entertainment to get involved with this, I was, my kids are, I got 12, 14, and I got 20 and 23-year-old, and I got 15, and I got that. And I look at some of the things that they watch, right? And when I see the just casual, laissez-faire thing around drugs, like it's a joke, or like, cartoon characters will take it on a hit show, and you see that stuff, and they never show the ramifications. And it's almost like they kind of like make it cool and rebellious to do these things. And it's like, the responsibility, because of fentanyl being in around, you're not going to necessarily get that support from places that you should. I remember as a kid, it didn't matter what the cartoon was, G.I. Joe or, in a favorite sitcom, they would have the episode, and then afterwards they would tell you like drugs are bad and you need to get help and these things like that. Now it's kind of almost this thing where it's almost acceptable to make jokes and play light and make it very casual about taking things you don't know what it is.
Yeah, the one thing about, and you talk about the old school ways, right? Well, it was the cartoons, right?
Yeah.
Saturday morning, all the cartoons are on every single time. I mean, Saturday morning, there are no more cartoons, right? So,
no.
But for kids have the phone at their disposal, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. So they have everything there, right? And so if you don't put those parental controls on the phone where they can't get to certain sites or they get alerted if they put a certain word in to the phone. I mean, I'm just telling parents to be proactive with their children, because
you got a parent.
The people in the black market, they're trying to get after your kids, be it in different platforms on Xbox, on social media. They're everywhere. They're trying to find ways to get this out. And I'm just telling kids, be smart, do the right thing. And if you do have an issue, just go to your parents, go to your mentor, go to somebody that you can speak to and ask them, what can you do to overcome that?
Yeah, and that's what you got to keep beating that drum. You might have to say it 20 times. And I'm as a parent, and it's that 27th time you say it that they go, hey, because you say, I gave my son the speech on drugs, or I gave him the speech on the birds and bees. He knows what to do. No. Because you make a great point. The people on the other end of that tablet, it's a full-time job for them getting your kids.
Oh yeah.
It's extremely profitable. It's a lot easier. It's not like when we were growing up where it was a creepy guy in a van on the corner that everyone was like, hey, that guy's, it's not that anymore. He has a fake account where he looks like you, he talks like you, he plays the same games. Like parenting, you now have to guard when they're in the nest. You can't just lock the doors and control the TV. Like he's in the house pretending to be 13 years old.
He's on the Xbox, he's on the PlayStation.
He's got time.
That's what they're doing. That's their 24/7.
And we have to, and I come home, I'm tired, and especially work on the road still, and it's like, give me your phone. What's going on in your, now because I never was still always a big kid, I still play all the games with my kids on when they play video games. I'm in all their chats. Like I know who's like on the friend list, and we're not, and we've made it a religion to where we don't play with strangers. We don't know them. They're not in our group. It's a family thing. Playing Fortnite with my sons and daughters, it's only us, and they're like, oh, hey, I got a friend request. Nope, denied. And everything has to go through me. And there are times where I'm exhausted.
And that's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
That is a good thing. I think people are going to say, oh, he's being a tiger father. No, you're protecting your. That's what you're here for.
Yep.
As a parent, as a mentor, you're here to guard those individuals. I've told my grandsons, because they play the Xbox. I tried to play the Xbox last year, and I'm like, I can't do this stuff. My hand-eye coordination is not good anymore. But it is critical to say the people that you don't know who are trying to friend you on these Xbox, on social media, if you don't know them, you do not play with them, because you don't know who's on the other side of that.
Right.
Because they can disguise their voices. They got voice simulators that they can make them sound younger. You have no idea who they are. So just make sure that you are protecting yourselves and you're doing everything with your friends who have the same interests that you have.
Right. And here's the other thing. If you don't want to play, because some of the games they play I have no interest in, but I will sit and watch. Even when I'm on the road, like I will FaceTime and be like, hey, you're building your Jurassic Park world or whatever it is. Hey, turn the thing so I can watch it and what's going on. Because it's once it becomes something that they think they have to do without you, that's what opens up the door. And it's just treated no different than watching them play with their action figures, or, hey, Dad, watch me do a flip in the back. Be present. And your present you're not hovering. You're being active participant. You also want to be the one when they do come in contact with a stranger, that your relationship is not that you're already strangers with your kids. We got 30 seconds left. I'm going to say this again. Go to this website, dea.gov/1pill. Again, congratulations for all your success. And I'd love to have you come on my podcast so we could talk about this more, because this is more than just a 20-minute conversation. But always great seeing you. Keep up the good fight. And if this conversation helps just one person today, we did our job.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on, Tyrus. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.